Hello everybody, this is Bjornson. I started recording the Midday Show hosted by Bjornson back in 2017, and it's always been a special podcast, just me talking to myself and whoever decides to listen. Well, we're going to try something new. For the next few months, I'm going to record a video edition of the Midday Show, which you'll just see me talking to the camera. You'll see me talking to you, basically, but it's going to air on YouTube first, and then a day after, it will air on the original air place of the Midday Show, that being Anchor.fm. Anchor allows me to publish the show to Spotify, and lately I've been struggling to see what should I do. Should I continue making videos on YouTube, or should I put more time into my podcast? Then it occurred to me, I'm not really coming up with anything on YouTube lately. I am coming up with podcasts. Let's try both. So J.R. Bjornson on YouTube is going to be the new home for the Midday Shows. The Midday Show hosted by J.R. Bjornson. And I hope it works. So let's try doing a video edition of the show, and let's have some fun with it. All right, here we go.
Welcome to the Midday Show, hosted by J.R. Bjornson, a stand-up comedian, YouTuber, father of 5 glorious kids. He might be a little blind, but he likes to make you smile. His goal is to help you alleviate some of the daily stress. When you invest time in his podcast, you'll be feeling a little happier. New episodes Monday to Friday, released usually by 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, broadcasting from Central Alberta, Canada. Please welcome J.R. Bjornson.
There we go. So it's a new format. I only have one camera up so far. Don't know if I'll ever do a multicam situation because I think that would be more work. And my office, where I broadcast these shows from, is quite cramped. But hey, if the show takes off, maybe, just maybe, we'll have a multicam one day in the future when I actually have a budget, when this show makes a budget. Let's talk about the importance of communication. Communication is so important because if done incorrectly, you can send somebody on a wild goose chase. The other week at my son's school, they had an impromptu concert. One of those just announced concerts where they expect you to show up and support your kid. You know, whatever. I don't mind showing up. I don't mind supporting my kid. Oh, what's going on over there? Oh, one of my cameras is shut down. It's all good. I don't mind showing up. I don't mind supporting my kid, right? Anyway, this is one of those just announced concerts. And my other son, who is 9, does patrol. You know, if you don't know what patrol is, it's when students volunteer to help other students cross the street. They usually have a vest on and a little stop sign. Back when I was growing up, the stop signs were made of wood, and you always wanted to get to the office first, or else if you were one of the last people to the office, you'd get the tattered vest, and you would also get the stop sign with the most slivers, the most chipped wood. That memory brought to you by our good buddy Rick Reddle, who is a big, awesome friend of mine. He's also blind. So, yeah, I was going to say he's a big supporter of the show, but I don't think he knows of the show's existence. Anyway, Rick told me when he was growing up and he did patrol, it was pretty cool that they let him do patrol because, Rick's blind. But Rick said you always had to get down to the office first because you wanted to ensure you didn't get the bad paddle, the bad stop sign with the slivers, because you had to hold that stop sign, right? Also, you'd get the torn up vest, the little yellow vests that draw attention for drivers who, to make sure they can see you, right? Anyway, back to the story. So this happened on Monday, and my son was working patrol that day. I told him direct instructions that he was to meet me by the tree closest to the school. And that's it. Meet me by the tree when you're done patrol. I will be back in 15 minutes. Because me and his mom and our 2 other kids were waiting in the van in our lovely vehicle. What do you know it? He totally did not take the instructions to heart because after he was done patrol, the principal of our son's school told him, "I thought I saw your dad leave for home. You have to go home because your dad left for home, even though I gave my son direct instructions to meet me by the tree closest to the school because there's a concert at 3:45 and we're going to go support his older brother at that concert." So you could imagine my disdain when I found out the principal of our school, our son's school, told him his dad walked home, so he might as well go home as well, even though I clearly told him to meet me by the tree closest to the school. Because of that, my wife had to drive home, pick up our son, bring him back to school, and when you have a family of 5 kids that you got to take care of, moving the kids all around, it is such an ordeal. So when my wife picked up my son from the house, she got back around 4 p.m. Now my son at this point is on stage, playing his band instrument, having a good time, recital, all that stuff, right? My wife texts me and says, "I'm just going to stay in the vehicle because 2 of our kids fallen asleep. They have fell asleep. I don't want to wake them up because if I wake them up, they're going to misbehave in the gymnasium. It's all going to go straight to insert, So I was so disappointed because I think as a parent, you want to make sure communication is key with your kids. And then when an authoritative figure shows up and tells your son to go home, even though you told your son to meet him by the tree, I was so flustered. I was so frustrated. And this is why communication is key, because if my son had actually listened to me, we wouldn't be in this predicament. He could have told his principal, "Oh, my dad told me to meet him by this tree, but since you're telling me to go home, I'm going to go home." Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, communication is absolutely key. So always listen to your parents and always explain yourself. So Mr. K, if you ever watch this podcast, I'm very disappointed in you because you really should imagine what the parent would have said. And maybe Mr. K is in the right and I'm in the wrong. All I know is my son, because of him being sent home, my wife was unfortunately not able to make the concert because by the time she got back to the concert, it was already almost over and our kids had fallen asleep. The 2 younger kids had fallen asleep in the vehicle and she was not going to wake them up. If they had stayed for the concert, the kids would have never fallen asleep because we were inside the gymnasium. So my wife and our 2 kids had to go pick up my son because let me tell you, a blind person taking care of a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old on his own is pretty impossible because you might think, "Oh, well, you're blind, right? All your kids are probably blind, Well, what seems to be the problem?" Well, the problem is, no. Only one of my kids have visual impairment issues. And that's the kid who got told to go home versus waiting for me at the tree. So communication is super, super important, and not all my kids are blind. So it's tough for me to look after the kids who can see, who are young, because they forget that their dad, or as we said back in the day, our old man, they forgot that their dad can't see. And when they forget that, they don't listen. They run away, and then I end up very upset, very confused, very frustrated because I can't find my kids on my own. Yeah, I could probably get them each their own little air tag, but that'd be pretty weird, or maybe their own beepers. But I don't want to humiliate my kids because, I was a kid once too, and I don't need my kids to feel that way. But again, guys, communication is key, and that was pretty much my frustrating start of a week. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday or Saturday whenever you're listening or watching this episode. It's the Midday Show hosted by J.R. Bjornson. thank you so much for tuning in. Really enjoyed having you along. These podcasts go for usually about 10 to 15 minutes, and we are trying a new format where I added a camera so you can actually watch the show and listen to it at the same time.
If you want to win, you're going to have to do better than your best.
How do I do that?
You got to give 110%.
Whoops. Wrong one. Hit the wrong button. Hopefully I can get the audio from the camera. Anyway, this wraps up another episode of the show. And as always, give it your best. Hank Hill. I've often heard of Alberta being compared to Texas because in Alberta, we often have the saying that goes, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes and it will change. What do you know? I was watching King of the Hill. In my case, I was listening to King of the Hill. And I heard one of the main characters there, Peggy, the wife of Hank, say, "It's Texas. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes." And I'm thinking, that's what we say about Alberta, Anyway, I will talk to you later on in the week. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you have any great stories about the times you had miscommunications with your family and maybe you ended up somewhere else. Maybe you ended up at the mall when you were supposed to be meeting them at home. Love to know your stories in the comments here on the J.R. Bjornson YouTube channel. Also, if you're listening to us on Anchor.fm, you can leave us a voicemail. Anyway, that about does it for me. I am gone like the wind. I'll see you real soon.